on the flip side of crypto. Joining me today is Sean Rach. Rach like rock and roll. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really appreciate being here.
So, as everyone can see from Sean's t-shirt, we are interviewing Hi.com. And Sean, could you help me explain to people what is Hi.com?
Sure. Well, we actually just go by Hi. Yes, our URL is hi.com, and I think that says a lot about who we are. We're really friendly, we're very open, and we're really set for a younger generation in looking at how people can manage their money. The core thing that makes us different to start off with is the fact that we are a not-for-profit financial service. What does that mean? That actually means that our members, people who buy our token, the high dollar, become members. And those members are really the whole reason we exist. We are not out to make profits. We're actually to help our members and to grow membership value. So when you look at that, that's something you don't hear normally. That has existed in the past in things like credit unions or mutual aid societies, but kind of got lost along the way. And the profit motive has kind of taken over both public companies, private companies, and even crypto companies. They're talking a lot about how much profit they're making. And that profit comes from you and me. So our approach is that our members, who are actually the ones who benefit from our services. By buying more of the token, they get different tiers of membership and they get different benefits. The next thing that's really unique about us is the way that we get you on board. My previous background was I worked at Crypto.com, a very successful company in its own right, but one of the challenges was getting people to download an app, open an app, fill out the app, do all of those things. We take a different approach, and we think that we can onboard people quite simply and literally in 2 seconds using chat messengers. So currently we're available on both Telegram and WhatsApp, and we have a web app, which is at web.hi.com. The last thing is that we're daily rewards, and we try to make it very rewarding. So a bit of fun. Each day you need to say hi, and you need to answer a bit of a fun question. So the idea is not necessarily to make it creepy like a Zuckerberg move or anything like that. Some of which will actually inform our platform, like which phone do you use, which apps do you like, what services for this and that. But most of it is actually just hopefully something that gives you a little bit of a smile in the morning, maybe something you want to share with your friends. So from that, you earn a daily reward in our crypto, and you can earn more rewards if you refer your friends. And in fact, I've designed a lot of referral programs in my time, and we've tried to make it the best you could possibly make it, which is you get 50% of whatever your downstream, unlimited downstream earns. So if I refer you, you get an amount, let's call it right now, it's 2.5 high dollars, I get 1.25. And then as you refer people on, I still get a little bit, all the way out. And members are really starting to see that, and it's starting to add up. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
I have to ask, anytime I hear about a nonprofit business getting into the payment sector, you kind of think, okay, where's the rub? Where's this going to come back to me? Could we clarify that point a bit just for the skeptical viewers out there?
You bet. And I am one of those people. My passion is actually in financial literacy. And I think the idea of, to be clear, what we said is we're not a nonprofit, we're not a charity. So we will cover our costs, but any excess that we create would go back into either making better rates for our customers, our members, or giving additional membership benefits. So that's how it actually goes into it. Instead of being excited to say, hey, I made more profit off my customer, I'm actually looking at how can I give my member more value?
Yeah, so that's brilliantly said. I simply wanted people to understand that this is not a too good to be true story, essentially.
Yeah, no. I've been in financial services for a long time, and it's been one of the things that I've always wanted to try and address.
And actually, that brings us to the next question, which is actually, I kind of get the feeling that Hi.com is run by an experienced team, but also this is quite a maneuver you're doing now in the crypto space. You're positioning yourselves as this friendly way to onboard people, a friendlier approach to finance. Why do you think that approach is needed as opposed to what the others are doing?
Well, I think your audience is the audience that we want to reach as well. We are all about mass adoption.
Mm.
Spent some time, previously at crypto.com, Stefan at bitcoin.com. And you're right. For most people, crypto is a little too technical, a little too, no offense, geeky. I'm one of those geeks too. But the thing is how do you make it where people can actually use it? And so our approach is with 3.8 billion smartphones out there, every one of those has a chat messenger on it. So let's reach people where they already are. No app to download to get started, but they can get on board right away. Then they have access to financial services that they've never had before. And so for us, the user experience becomes a critical part of what we're doing and making it as simple for, in the early days, let's say 2017, 2018, it was all a bunch of dudes sitting around talking. It needs to be ladies, it needs to be guys, it needs to be everybody. And that's how we really drive mass adoption. So we have been really singularly focused on making sure that we can bring that to market.
Yeah. And actually, so the way you would incentivize, for example, me or my whole family to utilize high dollars, etc., is one, by giving us an incentive to refer others. Number two, it's by actually unlocking tiers of essentially of membership, as you said. Are there any other benefits to using high dollars?
Yeah, I think we're at. I wouldn't call it the early stages. I guess we have to keep it real, in that
Yeah.
we are a project that has already got a working product, and we're just now going towards token creation. So our approach is, as you said, just like a credit union would do or a community bank. The members buy and they deposit, in this case, a token. With that token, depending on the level of investment that they've made, they get different benefits. Those benefits could be, and already for sure we're working on a deposit product. We will be announcing relatively shortly some lifestyle benefits and then also some travel benefits. COVID kind of killed a lot of that, but we think that some of the travel benefits that we've all not had a chance to use lately will be something that people will really enjoy. The next part of it, and if you look at our white paper, we did provide a roadmap. And as we go towards the later phases, we are very keen on the blockchain, obviously, and we are keen on decentralization. So our roadmap does include the creation of our own blockchain, and that is primarily focused on payments. But I think we've left ourselves some room open to consider other categories where we might be able to apply a similar kind of mindset, this not-for-profit mindset, to other categories.
Actually, you took an interesting approach, because many projects I talked to they kind of build in the dream, right? And then they kind of try to fit in a business model and then the product, But you kind of went the more it's traditional in the sense that you first create a product and then you're trying to scale it, blockchain enable it, etc. What was the driving factor behind this decision?
Yeah, it's interesting. And thanks for the question. I think really it came down to, if you want to call it, serendipity. The founders, basically, we had a chance to get together. And initially, we're all kind of COVID burnout, kind of taking a break and thinking about, well, what's next? And when the what's next came, we started to really look at it hard and say, some time ago, a very well-known white paper came out and said that sending money should be as easy as sending a text. That was Libra. That was in 2000, either 18 or 19. It was 2021, and it's still not done. It's still not the whole way that banks make money. Doesn't make any sense. How they look at, can they create a new fee to charge someone? Doesn't make sense. And I guess that put the fire in the belly. And that led us to start the process of, okay, business plan white paper. But we also, before we were ready to commit, we said, well, can we actually build this thing? And so we were able to get an MVP together relatively quickly. And that led us to say, okay, it looks like it's possible. Obviously, we have a lot more work to do, but let's go ahead and proceed. And so that really took us from the beginning of this year until about May 10th, when we opened up our private beta and started the whole onboarding of new members.
Yeah, and as you're onboarding them, do you onboard from all over the world, or is it region specific now?
Yeah, and initially, some people were a little bit concerned. We did limit it originally. I think our number was down to like 40 countries we started with, but now we have people from over 140 countries. And so the only limitations on our front really are those of compliance, places where, there are reasons not to onboard customers. We're holding off. A couple of those have just recently had a shift, and actually, we now have to investigate why has there been a shift, and does that mean that we should be onboarding them? But I think if we look at our ambition, and it is a big ambition, and when your listeners and viewers hear it, they're like, "What is this guy crazy?" We're not looking to have 1 million customers. We're not looking to have 10 million customers. We want to get to 100 million customers probably in the next 18 months. Okay, that's one fourth the size of PayPal. But really, the potential here is to, again, 3.8 billion smartphones. Could we have 1 billion customers? That's the ambition that drives us. Because if we can have 1 billion customers in all those markets, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, across Asia, across the Americas, across Europe, then I think we have a real chance to make an impact in people's lives.
But Hi's message then, to boil down to it, so essentially if I'm from Asia, from Africa, etc., the message would be, look, this is a great alternative to the existing systems, or the existing systems do not allow you to essentially have that WhatsApp simplicity together with financial operations, right? So is that the core message, or am I missing something?
I think you're pretty much on it. I think if anyone happens to go to our website, hi.com, there's a little play button, play the video. Yeah. And the video sets up the challenges that we face. Basically, both banks and data companies have been treating us poorly. And then if you look at, particularly in the financial services area, you've got an issue of speed, which I don't think they know what that word means. Hey, it's 3 to 5 business days to send money. Well, you darn well know that they can send it in seconds. They earn interest on your money while they're waiting to give it to you. The idea of service, again, that's with a question mark as well. And just the whole idea of how digital works. One thing I would point out about us that is probably different from most what you would call crypto companies is that we are trying to bridge the gap. We want to be able to offer both the fiat services and the crypto services because fiat is what people have. So traditional currencies, we want to be able to work with, and initially we'll work with licensed partners who will allow us to manage the Forex properly, as well as the transfer of traditional currencies to the point where we can have our own licenses and be able to provide that. Again, if you look at it, all of those services normally are available to be provided, but every financial institution adds a markup. And our philosophy, given what I've said, is yes, there are costs, but we're not going to mark things up. And when you put that together, it becomes quite a competitive advantage.
And how do you ensure people that actually this markup will not occur? Can they find that in the white paper? Can they find that? How can they be sure that, for example, it's quite hard to switch a phone carrier, right? It's even harder to switch from one bank to the other. And right now, people kind of use Hi as often as they say hi, right? And right now, it's how do you let people think of yourselves as something which will stay for a long time? What could give people that faith?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is offering people in the banking terminology, they call it interbank rates or mid-market rates. It's fancy terminology for what you and I know as the Google rate. You Google a currency versus the US dollar or versus the euro or versus GBP or whatever, that rate. That's the rate you should be receiving. There shouldn't be much moving around there. When you talk about crypto, it's a little bit of a tricky one to actually find out the price of crypto if anyone knows the details on it, because an exchange builds in a spread. Coin market cap is actually an average of exchanges, so it's a little bit difficult to find exactly, okay, what's the price. But that's the way that we would look at it. Is there are some benchmarks that you can look at and say, at least does that seem like a fair price? If it's suddenly that somebody's marked something up, definitely that is not our ethos, and I think it's clear enough for people once that happens. And actually, I'm pretty confident that the community would call us out on it.
That's great. I mean, it really seems like it's the perfect product for what's needed right now. Also, your assumption on the mobile market is spot on. However, I cannot shake this feeling, and this is where the flip side comes along. No drum rolls, but I have to ask, what are the downsides or your weaknesses which you can identify right now?
Sure. I think any crypto company has to be deadly serious about security. It's just critical. Obviously, for everyone's situation, we're dealing with money. I think the next one would be compliance. Compliance is something that is it is necessary if you want to be able to participate in the existing financial system. If you want to sit outside of it, there are ways to do that. Our approach, though, is initially to participate in systems that are as easy as possible for people to use. That tends to be centralized. But then, as I said, we have a roadmap to include a blockchain, to include non-custodial wallet, those type of things, so that if you are a person who, let's say in a year's time, you're very into this and this is something that you're keen on, you have that option. But for the mass adoption, we need that. So compliance actually turns into a security issue as well. So the nature of our reward system was going to lead people to try to game the system. We're aware of that. And so we will hold the line. Only one member can have one account. Many have already tried. But having the compliance done in a way that is as seamless as possible has been critical for us. And so we work with a industry leading partner. And I have to say, in 3 years' time, where I've been dealing with these systems, it really is almost as painless as possible. So I think that's a key one. And then I think the rest of it is on us. Can we build and can we maintain and can we innovate a user experience that really blows people away? If you try it out and you say, "Oh, this really sucks," you're not gonna refer your friends. But
Right.
most people who have seen the Telegram bot think it's like no bot that they've ever seen. I would say that the WhatsApp bot is a slightly different variant. There are some restrictions that they offer or that they put into place where it's for user benefit, but it doesn't allow us to offer the buttons, a little button menu, which was very nice in the thing. And then we've got the web app if people want to use a web app. And then ultimately, we're probably a little bit away, but we will be rolling out a mobile app as well. So instead of asking somebody to immediately download a mobile app and they got nothing until they complete a whole range of things, they're actually very actively engaged with the program. They're earning rewards that's incentivizing them to complete KYC properly. And then if they choose to have the mobile app because they like that user interface, they like the graphs, they want to check prices or whatever, then please, that would be great.
Yeah, and actually, you would have this almost all in one then. Actually, you can just chat with your family. Quick, mom sends you an allowance, etc. And essentially you would bring this whole family app into someone's pocket. Actually, it's a beautiful idea, and I think even it has good mojo behind it. I know how else to explain it. Just researching about the project, it kind of has a good mojo. But the problems are real, right? It's scalability, it's crypto, and quite frankly, as we cover every single day, regulation. Quite frankly, I don't know how do you guys wrangle with, for example, data protection, with encryption, etc. Or are you relying on your partners to do that? How is your legal department faring? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think the way to do it is the way that we've looked at it. And when people say, "Hey, how do you go from an idea in September to a MVP in January to live in May?" You do this with people who've done it before and people who are also frustrated that we didn't hit the full potential. And so looking at it with wide open eyes to say, hey, these are the issues that we're going to face. Obviously, we'll face new ones as well. For all intents and purposes, I can totally understand where a regulator comes from, and there's a reason that they need to do that. They do need to protect people. But the idea is that if you think about it, if we're in a situation where instead of being 50,000 people using some kind of crazy little app, we're at 100 million people, that changes the game. And that allows for peer-to-peer payments, which don't even have to be done on chain. So, I mean, they can literally be done that fast. Um, and it begins to change the whole way that it works. The largest crypto related companies are probably in the 25, maybe Coinbase up to 65 million. But when you look at how easy it is to onboard, how easy it is for you to tell your friends to join, why can't we go there, and why can't we go further? And if we do that, that really changes the game and the constraints that others have faced before.
Yeah, beautifully said. And if I could just pick your brain for one last question, what would you say to a young founder, right? So crypto is generally quite young, nerdy guys just doing sometimes nerdy things, and sometimes in a topsy-turvy way. It's very interesting to cover it, but sometimes it makes you scratch your head. What would you say is the biggest advice which most crypto projects have right now? And what would your advice would be to the whole market?
So did you say the first question was what vice do they have?
Yeah, essentially, what problem is it with the way projects are being introduced into the market right now? Because you have all this experience, you did the project the right way, and we kind of want to see what is your blueprint for other projects. Maybe other founders can follow that too.
Well, I think I don't know if it's okay, but to refer a book, there's a book called The
Yeah.
Hard Thing About the Hard Things. Um, I think that book tells you a lot about Silicon Valley entrepreneurship, which is pretty relevant to what crypto faces. I think the biggest issue that most companies make, in addition to the let's call it the pump and dump mechanisms where guys are trying to drive Lambos, that's not building a durable business, and that's not going to build anything. But I think the biggest challenge for people, and it's more than just the founders, it's the team, is understanding that the conditions in the market change. Your business might be running along very well, and there'll be a competitor who comes along. And either you can innovate and adjust and make some movements and realize, wow, they did point out that we need to make some changes, or you don't, and then you atrophy and fall. So I think that kind of persistence, I guess, is always a good component of, never say die, but it's also the fact that you're never done. Even as we're rolling out and we think, hey, we've got this, we're happy with, one step of what we've done. That's why we've actually put it into phases, because we think that our roadmap is about phases. And as we complete, what we would call, let's say, the basic phases, which were with regard to crypto services and fiat services, then we start to look at, okay, how do we look at decentralization? How do we look at other services that we start to provide? And that gives us more room to innovate and make it more interesting. I think that the challenge for most folks is that whole part of the hiccups that are in the road. I think entrepreneurs, either they know about it or they've experienced it before. They know that the hiccups are coming, and when they come, I think you begin to develop coping mechanisms over time.
Yeah, because it's important, especially in these times. Like, Amazon just releases a little bit of news, Bitcoin is up, the whole market is up, for crying out loud. And once you have any regulation news, again, everything is down. It's just so topsy-turvy that this answer to me really shows that, look, a good founder, a good project like Hi is actually perseveres, right? It's not going to be swayed by one wave or the other. And for that, I congratulate you and looking forward to seeing what you guys will do in the future.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to share what we've done so far, but it's just the beginning. And we are very passionate to be able to bring our services to as many people as possible. And we do mean as many people as possible.
Amazing. And people can learn about you in hi.com.
Yep, sure. Hi.com. It is a private beta, so I'll give you a secret. You can put my name in there if you want to. If you want to change it and put it yours in the show notes or whatever, more than happy to. In fact, I would encourage that. But yeah, just people can visit hi.com, put in a refer, and get started right away. They get to choose which
Amazing.
channel they want, and they're on board in 2 seconds.
That was the interview.